obviously the most wonderful time of the year. So excited to get started. Quite a new group for us. Obviously 10 graduating, and then others that have departed. Where we look to improve the quality of the squad and the depth of the squad, and I think we have. I think well, there'll be some new faces doing it. We got a lot of quality this year, a lot of depth. That'll be a management issue and concern for us as a staff to try and keep everyone happy. But a good problem to have. So excited to face Manhattan and get the season started, and encouraged with what we've seen in preseason.
Nick, what are you to start?
Dan, thanks for taking the time to chat with us. I know this is the most newcomers, excuse me, that you've ever had in your career. How challenging is it in such a short period of time? Like, you guys only get 2 or 3 weeks of preseason. How challenging is it to get everybody here, try to make those evaluations, and get an understanding for what the hierarchy of talent is going to be?
Extremely challenging, and I think it's a continued evolution through the first 2-3 weeks of the season, if not longer. So really, we've been willing to change and adapt and evolve to what we have seen within our squad midway through or somewhat early in every season I've been here. Certainly since 22 and on, there's been a change. It's happened probably somewhere between game 6 and game 9, because we feel like we finally got a true understanding of what we have within the squad. So we're open to changing again, and honest enough with the players to know we don't know if we've got it right just yet. Only that we feel really good about what we do have, and the arsenal that we have within our depth this year is really, really exciting.
Cody, we'll go to you.
Hey Dan, wanted to ask with the games on Thursday, do you like when you get the chance to do a doubleheader with the women? Does it add sort of a different sort of buzz to the day?
Depends if we're the late game or not. It's a tricky one when you're the earlier kickoff. Obviously, student section might be a little bit lighter with a 3:30 kickoff. Again, had to make a subtle adjustment to kickoff time there to accommodate some care to the field in between, which we were happy to do. But obviously, the preference is always a night game to hit things off. But it was our turn in the rotation of double headers to allow the women to go second, which we're more than willing to do. So yeah, we're hoping that despite the earlier kickoff and the potential conflict with classes, that we still got a great turnout, and that the players are energized and excited by when they look up into the crowd and look into the stands, that there's a really, really good showing, and that we feel like we have that support as we have in abundance the last 2 years. We're hoping to kind of gain that momentum and continue a really long unbeaten streak on Thursday.
Glenn, we'll go to you.
So you mentioned how you have a new group, but you also are returning a good core. You have Marcus, you got Carlos back, as well as Felix. How excited are you for those guys, to be able to use their experiences you push, for possibly another championship?
Yeah, Mark Bonaire, Konstantinos, among others that are returning as well. So we feel good about the core group that's still with us. Isaac Shear, that freshman class from last year that's transitioned to sophomores. Tristan, Dante, there's many, many more I could mention within that group. So we feel really good about the core group that's coming back. But inevitably, we had 10 graduating seniors. A lot of those were big hitters for us when it came to minutes. So some of those will have to be replenished elsewhere. I think we were really pleased with the quality of business that we did in last December's transfer portal. We knew there was going to be a lot of change, and we wanted to get ahead of it, and see if we couldn't get as much of the squad together for this spring that's just passed. And I think we did well with that. So, in essence, there is only 8 new faces this August. So when you think we have a roster of 28, that's just a little over. It's one more player over 25%, right? So matriculation when it comes to actual new players that arrived this August, there's only 8 players. So from that perspective, we're probably on par with where we should be, and it was really beneficial to get that other group of 7 arriving in January and get 4 months and some high quality opponents last spring to really challenge ourselves and test ourselves and feel confident that we're at the level that we have sustained over the last 2 years.
Brian, we'll go to you.
So, Dan, where have you seen Marcus take maybe the biggest strides from last year? Where have you seen him really refine his game from last season?
Yeah, I hope what we'll see with Marcus is continued leadership, maturity, ownership on his experience here at West Virginia. He is already one of the most decorated players in the program's history, and he has an opportunity with these next 4 months to really leave a legacy on the program. And be one of the most decorated players, not only in his individual performances, but as a contributor to team success. If we go on another formidable run this year, there may not be another Mountaineer with 3 years of that level of and caliber of output in the program's history. So I want the players to feel like this belongs to them, that this experience belongs to them. He's been given some greater responsibilities in terms of leadership, and as has of all of our seniors, from a standpoint of, they set the non-negotiables. So to give away something, I suppose, in terms of the cultural element of what we've tried to grow over the course of pre-season, the seniors and the leaders within the group set the expectations for what are our non-negotiables when it comes to the new players that have arrived. With as many new faces as there are, we wanted to make it clear that the players were setting the standards through their experiences, through how those that have just passed through the program, how they set standards, and that they're passing on that knowledge now to this new group that comes through. So my hope is that Marcus is just Marcus on the field, but perhaps gives a little bit more thought to how he presents himself to the others, how he makes himself available to the others, and how he helps pick the entire team up, not just in his own performances, but in his daily behaviors and habits. And I think, it continues to be a really important role model for everyone else within the group.
Nick, we'll go back to you.
And so, along the lines of Marcus, he continues to have the most unique situation in college soccer, having been an MLS draft pick about 2 years ago. Can you share any insight into any of the conversations that you may have had with Marcus or the people at Minnesota United about why it's in the best interest of all parties for him to be here for his senior season?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Minnesota have continued to be very happy with his progress and very excited about him as a prospect. There are other factors at play that are outside of Marcus's control and ours that have maybe prevented Marcus from arriving at Minnesota already, which is obviously to the betterment of our circumstances here. Marcus is totally aware of what that is, and understands that there's nothing he can do about it or we can do about it. It's a different situation, right? It doesn't essentially involve West Virginia in any capacity, or there's only so much Minnesota can do. So he's had to be a little bit patient with it. But at the same time, I think Marcus is very, very aware of the environment he has here, the quality of experience he is having here, and the improvements he's continuing to show. So I don't think there's any version of this where Marcus is frustrated or resentful or disappointed that he's not at Minnesota yet. I think he knows that that's next, and is very, very happy with what's happening right now, and is really, really driven to have a fantastic senior campaign.
Cody, we'll go back to you.
Yeah, Dan, just kind of wondering, what do you see out of Manhattan, and just what kind of test are they going to provide for your opener?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. They changed coach probably, I think it was July 10th it got announced. So obviously very, very late in the process. So it's a little bit of an unknown. Obviously, the first game of the season is always quite unpredictable. Often it's my most stressful scout because it's the most unknown scout that we'll have. When we get to LaSalle on Monday, I'll at least have had one game to watch of them this year. So a lot of unknowns when it comes to the style of play at Manhattan, because obviously the difference between the two coaches could be quite vast. But I think what we've tried to do is pay more attention to who is the new coach, what's his history, what's his what's his reputation, and in fairness, it's a very respectable one with the time he had at St. Francis Brooklyn, with a program in the NEC that I think he made the NCAA tournament 5 of 8 years and has a proven track record of success. So I'm sure he'll be looking to make an impact at Manhattan. And of course, whenever you have a new coach, there's that little bit of extra energy whenever you get to come up against a ranked team, which obviously we are to start the season. You normally anticipate that excitement and energy spilling over even more. So we're expecting a tough test. not only for those reasons, but because there's an element of this that we don't quite know. They have some returners and they have some good attacking pieces that are familiar and have been around the program for some time, as well as a goalkeeper that returns for his senior year as well. So they have some experience in there through their attacking, if you like, through the core. To be honest, straight down the middle, there's a lot of returning players for them. And then there's of course that unknown entity of how will the coach set them up, what will the playing style look like, and what will their intentions be when they get to West Virginia.
Evan, we'll go to you.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining with us today. Kind of following up on a couple of questions Nick had asked, is the most important thing for you in the offseason being able to play, having players go other places and play? And how do you track and follow those and then kind of mesh all those as you start working toward this season?
Yeah, I think the USL2 specifically, NPSL as well, but USL2 specifically is essentially a summer league of a collegiate level. There's some really professionally run organizations that take good care of the players and run a very positive and professional environment for the players. And obviously with the caliber of players that we have, most of our boys find themselves with an opportunity to play on those types of teams. It was something, it's been available for a very long time, something that myself and Andy did a long time ago. And I think it supplements their overall experience. I think going and having the potential to play anywhere from 10 to 16, 18 games in the summer can sometimes be really beneficial. Obviously, our international group of players are, even the domestic ones, quite honestly, they're comfortable and they're familiar with playing 35, 45 games a year. Now, obviously, our collegiate season, depending on how far into the tournament you go, is give or take 20 to 22 games in the fall, and then maybe additional 5 in the spring. So it doesn't quite scratch the itch for all of them, and they're often looking for more. I think they're given a lot of autonomy over the course of the summer to go and find what they're looking for and get extra minutes. I think it's extremely important for our goalkeepers, for example, to get that additional playing time and experience. Sometimes it's nice just to get away from what you're familiar with and accustomed to in Morgantown, West Virginia, and find a new experience and a different coach, different personnel, different environment, different location. I have no problem with that. The overriding message is always, as soon as they think it's getting to a point where the decisions they are making are to the detriment of what's in West Virginia's best interests, that's when a change needs to happen. So if they have played every minute of every game and we're closing in on middle of July and they haven't really taken a break, then there's conversations that need to take place. But for the most part, they utilize it in a way that's really supplemental to their level of sharpness and their level of conditioning when they come in. Because the other reality we face is our day one of preseason is 17 days from my first game, and not that I know a great deal about anatomy and physiology, but I know it's impossible to come in at 0 and be 100% fit in 17 days. So they need that additional conditioning and some of that match day sharpness that they can get from USL2 and the like prior to arriving back on campus.
Ryan, we'll go to you.
So, Coach, you mentioned the keepers there briefly. I did want to ask you, Mark was obviously the guy last year for you. Coming into this year, is he still your guy at the keeper position? And how much of Toby and Chase pushed him and made that sort of a competition, so to speak?
Yeah, we've been really fortunate, I would say, for many years now. And this year, no different, that we feel like we have 3 high-level goalkeepers, 3 or 4 in previous years. So it's another really healthy race. And it's another really ruthless decision that we'll have to make, unfortunately. Again, as I mentioned, 17 days isn't a lot of time, and 3 exhibition games where, through the first 2 we split time and they're playing 35 minutes in one, 40 minutes in the next, and then you kind of feel like you need to make some kind of decision in order to utilize your third game as that kind of true reflection of what Thursday could look like. It's so ruthless. What I will say is there's something about the nature of being a goalkeeper that they seem to take it better than the outfield players when we do have to not play someone. But every year it's the same challenge for us, and quite honestly, we were able to utilize Toby and Chase in the spring as well as this preseason, and Chase gets a clean sheet against Georgetown last spring. Toby the same against Pitt away last spring. So these guys have been stress tested tested. But Mark hasn't put a foot wrong either. So yeah, we have a really really good contest in that position as well as many others. And yeah, it will probably come down to the next 24 hours that we'll look to probably make that decision and feel as though they have a little bit more clarity as to what direction we're heading in.
You've obviously been doing this a long time now. How much with that position in particular is the feel you get as a coach versus what you see in data you get as far as clean sheets and other stops and things like that? What's that kind of back and forth?
Yeah, it's a good point. The goalkeepers and the goalkeeper position can have an aura to it, can have a presence to it that's kind of hard to put your finger on exactly what it is you're feeling or exactly what it is in terms of their behaviors that is coming across necessarily. But it's a really, really important position that in terms of their presence and exuding a confidence and a control. I would imagine, not that I know enough about this other sport, but I would imagine it's kind of like a quarterback in the sense that like you need to constantly give off this impression that you're in control of the situation and that you're commanding and you're leading and you're giving direction to those around you. And again, all of them have grown. I think just purely from a seniority perspective and knowing that we've worked with Mark as long as we have, he might be slightly ahead in that department. But have felt extremely comfortable with both Chase and Toby in those other games and in their moments and opportunities. But yes, it's more than just did they make the save. I think sometimes a clean sheet there can be too much read into it, and often we'll ask if Mark didn't save it, would Toby or would have Chase, and if Mark did save it, would Toby and Chase, and often the answer is the same. So again, three high caliber goalkeepers where there's little to choose on their technical qualities, on their distribution, and sometimes it is just maybe a maturity and a leadership and a commanding presence that does develop over time, and then familiarity can play a part. So that all of those factors kind of come into the equation when we're making a decision, as well as form, which is a huge piece of the goalkeeper position.
If anyone else has any questions, make sure to raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll go to Nick for the last question.
So, Coach, your two captains this year, Carlos and Kaz, why are they the right two guys to lead your team and to wear the armband? And then as a quick follow-up to that, you mentioned non-negotiables set by the leadership in your team. Would you feel comfortable maybe giving us a little taste of what some of those non-negotiables are?
Yeah, I think we'd had a conversation with Cos before the end of last season. Obviously, at that point, we were under the impression that Carlos was his time was up, and we benefited from a very very unique junior college NIA rule that applied to Carlos to give him this extra year. So we were very excited about the prospect of bringing him back, and obviously adding him to our captaincy, if you like. Both of them, fantastic young men, humble guys, happy guys, positive around the environment. Both will lead by example in their training habits. Incredibly approachable for all of the guys as well. And again, I think it's beneficial that their experience so far has been through two of the most successful seasons that the program's ever had. So I like to believe that they'll have learned from others that have come through and done extremely well during their time in the program. They'll know what it used to feel like, and they'll know what it needs to continue to feel like and look like for this group too. So very, very excited to have them in those roles. And then as far as non-negotiables, I think we broke it down to three categories almost, where we talked about their daily habits, the details of being timely, behaving professionally, being respectful, relational, as far as how they communicate with others on the team, how they understand conflict resolution, because we play what can be a volatile sport and a high stress, high emotion environment where we don't always see eye to eye, and that's okay sometimes, but we need to be able to resolve it and figure it out pretty quickly. And with that, relational was a third entity, which essentially was communication. So not to get too specific with the weeds of each one of those three categories, the legacy group did a really nice job of breaking down those three criteria and kind of setting expectations for the players and understanding how they're going to treat one another. how they're going to treat the staff, how we're going to treat them as well. They also had non-negotiables for the staff as well, so we'll kind of try to adhere to those as best as we can throughout the course of the season. Maybe I'll give you a sneak peek week after week.
Okay, and then Greg.
Dan, you mentioned it can often take maybe up to that 6 game mark to kind of figure out what you are, what you have. But I think 6 of your first 8 are at home this year, and with the success that you've had at that venue, in particular the last 2 seasons, do you talk to these guys about that, and how important is it ultimately to produce some desired results early in the year when you're playing in abundance at home?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before we played Montgomery. I think you'll have us at 31 unbeaten. I now have us at 40 if you were to count all of the spring games and preseason games as well. So, there are 2 separate clocks that are running here when it comes to our unbeaten home record. So it doesn't matter what the context is of the game. When we're here, we expect to win, and we're gonna go about our business in a way where we're going to be the dominant force when we play at Dick de l'Est. So that's incredibly important. And the sport we play isn't a marathon; it's a sprint. So a fast start is incredibly important. If you look at the success that we had in 2021, 2023, 2024, all of those seasons included, I think, double digits undefeated start to the season, which just allows you the potential of some grace, right? If there's a blip later on, you probably put enough in the bank that you can afford to have that. So yeah, there's little room for mistakes when you're a team that's aspiring to not just make the NCAA tournament, but be a really, really high seed as well. And of course, if you have an advantage where you can create an environment here between the fans, the crowd, the hostility, and then just the confidence and aggression that we show when we play at home, and keep the run going that we've got going, then that's a huge component. As you said, 6 of 8. If we're still undefeated at home after those 6 games to start this year, we'll be very, very happy.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday.
Thanks, guys.